Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another segment of Asaph Cafe. I am your host, Asaph Adonai, and once again, we're on another set. This is called the Chicago Towers. So we are in our version of Chicago.
Yeah.
Chicago.
Oh, yes.
Oprah Winfrey territory, by the way.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And on my immediate left, once again, we're doing a series of one-on-one shows. Affectionately, our aging rocker, Emmet. He's a regular and a fixture, and I'm very humbled and blessed to have him be part of this show. And for those who don't know the concept of this show, normally we have our regulars and the guests who will come on, and all they do is talk to me as I play the piano. Simplest thing in the world to do. And they talk about anything. You'd be surprised what people have talked about in the 2 years I've been doing this show. So, like I said, our regulars can't be here for now, and Emmet and I are just going to keep on doing a series of one-on-one shows and have fun.
Yep.
So, let me test the sound real quick, and you can start us off. Isn't that beautiful?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Heavenly Father, bless our time and our food together in Jesus' name.
Amen.
Mm-hmm.
And on that note, I'll take some of that secret ingredient.
Yep, definitely.
To get us started.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. That's enough. This lamp here, Christian inadvertently called it the singing in the rain lamp.
Mm-hmm.
So on our Chicago Towers, we're going to call that lamp there on our immediate left the Singing in the Rain. That's based on the movie Singing in the Rain with Gene Kelly. Let me play that. It's been a while since I've done it, but let's have fun with it.
Yeah, I've never seen the movie. I've heard it played on easy listening stations and, of course, the Lawrence Welk Show, but I never saw the movie. What was it about? Was it about singing in the rain? Wasn't it a musical?
Yeah. It was starring a very young Debbie Reynolds, and Gene Kelly was a star. Basically, Gene Kelly was one of those silent actors. And in that period of time, the talking films were just coming out. And a young Debbie Reynolds was trying to break into the talking film business, so she didn't really respect Gene Kelly's character because he was just a they had the non-talking pictures. So she looked at him as a has-been. And in a way he was, because in the 1910s and 20s, they had those silent pictures like Rudolph Valentino and all that, where they had the words on the screen, and Charlie Chaplin movies. And a lot of those actors in that time period became washed up because when the talking film came out, that was much more interesting to the audiences, because the people who didn't talk, they had to prove that they could really act. Because now their voices were being heard and so on. And so Debbie Reynolds' character just thought of Gene Kelly as a has-been washed up because he was a silent actor. So he was trying to convince her that he was still a somebody. And that's basically what that film was about.
Interesting.
Yeah, it was a neat film. And the middle part where Gene Kelly is dancing in the rain and singing, I think he falls in love with Debbie Reynolds' character. But they were fighting throughout the film in a sense because she really didn't respect him. She really thought he was washed up. And he was constantly trying to prove that he wasn't. And like I stated, the silent film actors had to really act now. They couldn't hide behind, not talking and just showing them on the screen and have the words. And I think that put a lot of those actors at that time out of work. Because
I never thought of that.
Yeah, because the ones that, if they didn't have to talk or speak, they can just do their scene. But when you're being heard on camera, that's a different matter. And I think that a lot of people in that silent film era, they called it, I think a lot of them were put out of work.
Yeah, interesting. Never thought of that.
Yeah, when the talking films came out. So.
Yeah, I never cared for silent films. I've seen old silent clips and I never cared for it.
Well, they were fun, but the techniques were just different, that's all. They were just totally different.
Yeah.
And, when the talking films came out, in fact, from what I understand about film history, when the talking films first came out, there were a lot of people who were opposed to it. In the Hollywood, the film industry. It's no different than movie stars of the 30s and 40s. You know, they like the Clark Gable movies. They did all these movies, right? And then television came out. And there were some movie stars that were smart enough to jump on the bandwagon on television because television reached more people. It reached people who didn't go to the movies. And a lot of the people in the film industry and even the actors, early actors, thought that television was going to be a flash in the pan. And, you know, like a novelty. No different than the silent film when the talking films first came out. And, of course, we know how wrong. And this makes me think of an actress. You've probably never heard of her. Her name was Loretta Young.
No, I never heard of her.
She was a famous actress in, I think, the 40s. She did movies with Clark Gable and all that. And then when television came out in the 50s, I think Loretta Young's agent and all those people advised her not to go into television. They were jumping into that bandwagon about it being a flash in the pan. But Loretta Young and her husband had the foresight to see different. So what they did, since Hollywood did not sponsor them at that time, they took their own finances. They started a television show called the Loretta Young. Well, first it was called Letters to Loretta. It was no black and white like half-hour show. Kind of had a good moral point. And it worked. Because then the show went from Letters to Loretta to the Loretta Young show. And it catapulted Loretta Young way more than her movies ever did. With television. So that's kind of a little history of silent film and early television. The people who jumped on the bandwagon were people like Milton Berle. I don't know if you know him. He was a famous comedian of the past. He was known as Uncle Milty, and he did a series of comedy shows on behalf of Chevrolet, I believe it was, that was the sponsor. And Loretta Young jumped on the bandwagon. Milton Berle. Sid Caesar was another pioneer. I don't know if you would know him. He was a famous comedian of the past also. And then there was Sid Caesar and oh gosh, there's one other comedian and I can't think of his name right now, but I see his face. If his name comes to me, I'll tell you who he is. But there were some early pioneers that, including Liberace, that got on the bandwagon of early television, and they became household names. In fact, television was a bigger medium than the film industry was in the early years, and the same with the talking silent films. I remember even a friend of mine, just down the street, when he remembers old television when we first got it, or someone else did, I can't remember. And often, if you're in the hills, sometimes there was just a blank screen. You couldn't get TV because if you were too far away or something, it was just a blank screen, and there wasn't even TV stations ready, but they were just watching this blank screen, but they were fascinated by television. What is this screen? Wow, look at this. Well, my mom, my birth mom, when she was a little girl, and they didn't have a television back that time when she was a little girl, they used to get around the radio, and they had these old radio broadcasts.
I remember those.
Like the Green Hornet and Kato. Fibber, McGee, and Molly was one of the shows.
Or The Shadow.
The Shadow knows, actually. I'm going to freeze on that chord. And what was fun was, when you got around the radio, now I wasn't alive then, but I can use my imagination. When you get in front of the radio, you use your imagination to hear the actors of what stories or scripts they were reading. And people like Lucille Ball got in on that. They were radio stars. Bob Hope. They were all playing these characters in these early television shows, but they weren't television shows. They were radio shows. And stuff like that. And my birth mom used to literally get in front of the radio as a little girl or whatever, teenager, however old she was at the time. And the family, my grandparents would all sit around the radio like a lot of American families, and they would listen to these programs. I mean, you had to use your mind, your imagination. So, like, if you heard about the Shadow Nose or the Green Hornet, if the Green Hornet's about to go off a cliff, you use your imagination to see these images. Whereas television, you got to see the image. And, of course, more people flocked around television.
Oh, absolutely.
There was a visual. More American families got around
the television
television set, and it just took off from there.
Yeah.
And now, of course, modern times, we got YouTube.
Oh yeah.
I mean, on YouTube, you can see any and everything.
I know.
It's
Yeah.
just really amazing. And I'm old enough. I'm old enough to remember. Oh, I lost my train of thought. Hold on, let me start that again. Now, I wasn't there in the '40s with
Radio.
The radio, but that's the way it was. Television came out, and it just evolved.
It did.
We got the computer now. We got YouTube. We have all of this stuff here.
I
And,
know.
That's just kind of a history lesson there.
Yeah. Well, I've heard The Shadow because a friend of mine, he's deceased now, but in an old apartment, he had found an old tape of The Shadow somewhere in a garbage can or somewhere on the street or something. So we were listening to this, The Shadow. No one knows what lies in the hearts of men. The Shadow knows.
Yeah.
And then, of course, The Shadow Knows, brought to you by Wood Burning Coal. Wood burning coal is very good for you. Those old commercials, and then, of course, you used your magic. I guess, wasn't The Shadow a crime fighter? Kind of a shadow?
Yeah, he was.
I thought it was cool. It's about the only radio show I liked, that I've ever heard. Some of those got really cheesy.
Well, yeah, I've heard some of those old radio broadcasts. Even though I wasn't there, I heard some of them. I used to have, like, cassette tapes of some of those early radio broadcasts that I used to listen to and stuff. So, they had a slew of programs.
They did.
A whole lot of those radio broadcast programs at the time that American families would get around.
Oh, yeah.
That's the way it was with my mom.
That's also you got the news, about World War II or...
Yeah, it was on the radio, right, radio broadcast. And with television, like we mentioned, more people flocked around their television because it was a visual image. They had all these people like Walter Cronkite and let's see, who was it? It was Chet Huntley. I don't know if you would know him. Chet Huntley, he's from Montana. Chet Huntley and David Brinkley. They was called, Chet Huntley and Brinkley news broadcast. They were on one network, and Walter Cronkite was on another network. And he was called the most trusted man in America at that time. But you got to remember, all that stuff was brand new, so you didn't have a lot of... Like, we have like 200 channels now these days. So, anyway, that's the way it was. Then that's a little history. And now we got like 200 channels. We have like movie channels.
Oh, yeah.
We have music channels where you can just turn your screen on and you don't see anything but just hear the music like a radio.
That's why I love the easy listening channels on music shows. I just love that.
The classical music channel.
I love it.
I'm going to play Santa Cheese.
Well, sometimes on the music choice channels, they'll have, like, for easy listening, beautiful scenery of these woods, like over here, wilderness, or the woods, or flowers, or the mountains. Very peaceful. Same with the soundscapes channel, Contemporary instrumental, beautiful type of things. I love it. Even toddler tunes, they'll have beautiful, adorable pictures of little toddlers, and so cute, and toddler toys. It's adorable,
Yeah, I agree.
And of course, little fun facts. Did you know Jackie Gleason was born on this date? I can't remember the date. Jackie Gleason
did.
What?
Today, August 18th, he was born?
I don't know. It just said, did you know on such and such a date Jackie Gleason was born? Because they have those little snippets that you can read on the music choice channels. Did you know Jackie Gleason was born on such and such a date in such and such a place? I can't remember
I
where.
did not know that. I didn't know that.
Well, it wasn't today that he was born. No, it wasn't.
I see.
It wasn't born today. It was just on, they do this repeating cuts. They always have the little clips, if you see music choice channels, such and such a person was born on this date, they entered this musical training, they had this band, and then they died on such and such a date.
Oh, I see. Trivia stuff.
Yeah. Exactly. They always have that, yep. Yep.
Yeah, let's talk about Jackie Gleason for a moment.
Yeah.
He was very interesting to me. It's amazing how popular this man was in his time. He had 2 television shows that I'm aware of. Well, of course, The Honeymooners. But he also had a show, it was a variety show called The Jackie Gleason Show.
Yes.
And my parents used to watch that show. And then he had his own orchestra, his big band orchestra, the Jackie Gleason Orchestra. And he did a lot of movies when he got older. When the craze of the 50s and television was starting to pass, when times were changing and television was getting a little bit more modernized and relevant with the time. Jackie Gleason went on to do like movies and stuff, but in the 50s, that man dominated television.
Wow.
I mean, he was one of the most famous, probably actors, entertainers in the world. Jackie Gleason.
Wow.
Yeah, he really dominated television at that time. And I'm still trying to think of the name of that comedian. He's on the tip of my mind's eye. Oh wait, I think I know how I can figure out his name. Just a moment.
The dancing washing machine, is that the comedian?
Hold on a second. I know exactly how I'm going to figure this out. What that comedian's name was. I'm going to put this name here. Just a moment. This is how I'm going to catch up here. I should have thought of this sooner.
You can now find anything on a phone. I remember the old phones that you had on the wall, and they just were phones. It's amazing.
Yeah, do you recognize this comedian here?
Clifford Brown? No, I don't.
No, Clifford Brown is the musician that's being introduced. This guy here is the comedian.
Don't know him.
But this announcer, this is the guy I'm trying to think of. I still can't think of his name.
Yeah.
It's going to drive me nuts. I'm going to see if I can remember who this guy is. Soupy Sales.
Oh, yeah, Soupy Sales.
I knew it would come to me.
I've heard of Soupy Sales.
Yeah, he was also one of the pioneers. I can't believe I couldn't remember his name. He was also one of the pioneers of early television. He and Jackie Gleason and Sid Caesar, famous comedian, some of those people, and Milton Berle. And you always saw them the most on early television. And that's how come they became such household names. Because, as I stated, television had a bigger medium. It reached more people than movies ever did. And another thing that we were talking about jumping on the bandwagon. How can I put it? And they had this on A&E biographies with Peter Graves. I don't know if you know who Peter Graves was. He's the actor that played on Mission Impossible, the original Jim Phelps. Well, let's wait for your time. Well, anyway, Jim Graves went on to host A&E biographies. And in this biography, they were talking about the film era. Not the silent film, but the movies, like the 1930s and 40s and so on, before television came out. And a lot of them didn't want to pay bankable stars if they were on television. Why should you... how can I put it? Before television came out, you had to pay to see a star. Like Liberace or whoever.
Yeah.
But when they got on television, you no longer had to pay.
Yes.
You could see them for free.
Yeah.
So that's where the controversy or the stir came in at that time, because people were like, why should we have to pay going to a movie to see a star when we can see that same star on television for free? That's what I was trying to say. So. But anyway, there's a song that comes to mind.
Do you remember the first televisions? They were so big and bulky, and they had those tubes in the back.
Oh yeah,
they were huge. They were big and bulky. They're heavy.
Yeah, when I was in the first grade, my grandparents, they had one.
One thing I love. Normally I'm against the newer technologies like the computers and all that, but I love flat screen TVs. They're so lightweight. I have a little flat screen.
I like them too.
Because they're much easier than those bulky, televisions that you could slip and fall and break them, or slip when you're moving.
And they're so heavy.
Yeah, I hated those.
You probably won't know this song. You Make Me Feel Brand New.
Oh yes, I've heard it. Yeah. Yeah, I've heard it, yeah. Yeah, I like it.
Okay.
I do. I've heard it on KUEZ FM, Easy 102, back years ago in the 80s. Yeah, I heard that, yeah. Somewhere I might even have a recording of it somewhere. I'm not positive. Yep.
Oh, that's a neat song.
Mm-hmm.
Beautiful song.
Yeah. One thing I really don't like though about modern televisions, you can't watch them unless you have a special adapter. You can't just, that I know of, watch like ABC, CBS, NBC, and just, it's like you have to pay for cable. Since you don't have cable, how are you able to get just local channels?
I'll answer in a moment. Let me finish it. Beautiful song.
Yeah, it is. I love it.
I'm gonna do some easy listening for you.
Thank you.
Beautiful song.
It is.
Anyway, to answer your question, in the old days, they had what was called those little rabbit ears, you know, those antennas that would just plug into the back of your television. But you only got about 3 channels or something. It was ABC, CBS, and NBC at that time.
Yeah, and maybe an independent station, of course, PBS, yeah.
Yeah, and then I remember when Fox announced that they were going to be a network just like 30, 40 years ago, something like that. It was such a big thing. Oh, Fox Network, they're going to get a new network instead of the 3 networks. Now we got about 200 of them. But answering your question, they don't do the old rabbit ears much anymore. I mean, they have them, but you have to have what's called a converter box. And the converter box, when you plug it into the television because of the new waves or whatever else and the signals.
Digital, yeah.
Because of that technology and the digital signals, that's when you get the local channels. You get maybe one movie channel.
Yeah.
It's not a cable movie.
Yeah.
They call it movie TV. And then, of course, MTV, entertainment television, that comes in with the converter box, and you get 3 channels, plus the PBS channels. That's it. And so to answer your question, that's how I'm able to see all the local stuff. And I'm not here to pick on cable companies, but what I don't like about cable is they just play the same movie for a whole month. Yeah. You know? And a lot of the stuff they just put on there, I don't think is worth watching anymore.
That's true.
So,
absolutely.
I'm not here to bash cable companies. I'm not telling people don't get cable or subscribe. I'm just saying I don't see any need for it.
Yeah. I really have to have cable because if just the 3 channels and whatever, it's the mundane and the inane, just nothing.
I understand that, and you know, I have a lot of those movies in my collection, VHS movies and stuff anyway. But if I were to have cable, I think the only thing I'd be interested in is probably CNN News. Yeah. And I don't need to really watch that because I can just watch the news that I have. I'm pretty content. Besides, to me, it's an extra expense that I don't need. Yeah, if you don't have the money for it, exactly. Or even if I had the money, I don't think I necessarily need it. So, you know, and I'm, you know, these cable companies, they amaze me. They always have all this competition, like HBO and all the rest of them trying to compete. And it's the same thing. Because I have a lot of friends that have cable, and you go over their house and like, they just showed this movie 2 days ago, and for like 30 days they're rerunning the same movie. Now, if they would like show a different movie every night, I could see that. You know? Or every week get a series of new movies on there instead of the same movie for 30 days, the same. That's a complaint I've heard with cable. So. Yeah, actually, I kind of like having the same movies every month because, remember, I used to get Showtime. Well, I guess you didn't. I used to get Showtime. Well, they used to have a lot more science fiction. Like, I would watch Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan over and over and over and over. I loved that. Well, you know, that works for some people. And I'm not knocking it. And there are some advantages to when they show the same movie because you want to record it, for example. Oh, yeah. Whatever. So, and I admit, when you watch those movies like Star Trek, even though I have them in VHS form, it's more fun watching on television. Yeah. And another thing I noticed when they show these movies on television, how clear they are. Yeah. Now, when you record them, they don't turn out as clear, obviously, on VHS, but it's fun. And so, yeah, I understand that. Yep. So, just food for thought.
Mm-hmm.
But let's play Secret Agent, man. I haven't done it in a while. Just food for thought to movies,
Yeah.
Like I said, me, I'm not dogging on it.
Oh yeah.
It's not something I really need.
Mm-hmm.
But it is a fun luxury to have. And it is fun to watch Star Trek. Like they had the Wrath of Khan on that, what is it, that movie channel that I get at home.
Yeah.
They showed they showed the Wrath of Khan.
Oh, cool.
And then I think they jumped to number 5
Yeah.
or whatever it was after that, and they were repeating that. So I admit, in fact they showed both movies, and then they started over and showed both movies again.
Yeah.
So I sat up for hours just watching these same movies. And I was killing time. I was like, this is cool. I'll let Star Trek keep me company in the background. I think I was doing a news story or something. I was preparing, and I had a Wrath of Khan in the background there. Let me play that, the Wrath of Khan. It's been a while since
I have the soundtrack.
Yeah, let me do my version of it.
I have the soundtracks to Star Trek movies 1 and 2 and 3. Yep. I love it. Yep. Yeah, I watched that movie Star Trek II: Wrath of Khan. Even I finally got burnt out on it because I saw it so many times. Great plot though, and great lasers and space wars. I love it for that. Oh, it's beautiful. Yeah, I've got a ton of science fiction, soundtracks at home, like from Star Wars, Star Trek, that kind of thing. And as I was a kid, I would just drink Coca-Cola like this and listen to music like this over and over again on my record player.
Yeah, I know.
So this brings back good memories. Fascinating.
That's just my little version of it. I haven't done it in a while, but it's something to that effect.
Yes.
But yeah, I do enjoy those Star Trek movies, especially the Wrath of Khan.
Yeah.
And I do like the soundtrack to number 1, the music.
That was so beautiful.
I don't have the soundtrack, but I do have the movie, so I can just pop the movie.
Oh, I just love that soundtrack. Beautiful.
Yeah. It does have beautiful. It has something that goes like this. Let's see. Oh, you know that little Klingon march at the beginning?
Oh, yes. That's when we saw the new Klingons, the way they redid them. Yeah, I remember that. Yeah. And they get wiped out by V'ger. Yep.
Yeah, something like that.
Oh, that was a great one. Yeah, I just love those. Yeah.
Something like that.
Fantastic.
I could figure that out if I really took time to put
they were really good. Yep.
Yeah, but I do like Star Trek 1.
Yes, that was the best of them.
Now, Siskel and Ebert come to mind because they didn't like Star Trek 1, 3, and 5, but they did like 2, 4, and 6. But I like them all, basically.
Yeah.
Some just not as well as others.
Yeah.
But I do like them all.
Yep.
And of course, number 6 is my personal favorite.
Yeah, I've seen that.
The plot line, the undiscovered country. That is my personal favorite of all the Star Trek films. But everybody has a favorite. Some like number 1. Some like. I think the majority of people like the Wrath of Khan, and I can understand that because it's based on a television series.
Yeah.
And, it's just kind of picks up where that episode left off in a sense. So, Ricardo Montalban, he was just such a what's the word? Perfect actor for that.
He was
that character
yes.
that he played. So.
Yeah, he was a very good actor. Yeah, it's fantastic.
I'd seen some early photographs of Ricardo Montalban in his early pictures. He was quite the actor. Very handsome man, and he wasn't too bad looking when he got older, like on Fantasy Island and all that. But when he was a young man, and he was young, and this guy was chiseled. Did you see how buff that guy was?
Oh yeah.
I'm like, where did they find this guy at?
Yeah.
What planet did they go to find him? This guy was huge.
Yeah.
And I've seen photographs of him when he was young like that. I don't know how long it took him to get that body like that, but my goodness.
Oh yeah, probably a lot of time, a lot of workout and that kind of thing.
I'm sure he did. When he was playing con on that.
Yeah.
You remember that scene when he was lying in the bed like that?
Yes.
When they first found him, and he was just
Yep.
protruding through the blanket there when Dr. McCoy was working on him. I'm like,
Yep.
man, look at this guy.
Yeah.
So, but no, they left me out in that department.
Mm-hmm.
You look at me,
Yeah.
I got the physique of Kermit the Frog. I'm like,
Oh well.
you know.
Yeah. Oh well.
So that was my nickname when I was growing up.
Interesting.
I had a friend named Monica when I was growing up. And I had I have thin legs now, so you know when you're growing up you wear shorts.
Mm-hmm.
And I had these little, like, what do you call, big bird legs, Kermit the Frog legs. So she used to call me Kermit the Frog.
Yeah.
Asaph, your legs are so skinny.
Mm-hmm.
Real sweetie.
Yeah.
I've known her for like, oh my goodness, ever since we were kids.
Mm-hmm.
About at least 40 years.
Mm-hmm.
So Monica, if you ever see this, hey sweetie.
Yep.
Yeah, she's a real sweetheart, oh Monica. I don't see her much anymore like I used to because, you know, I live in Montana now. And she still lives in California.
Mm-hmm.
But we grew up together. You know how we became friends? This
How?
is a true story. Monica was something like 10 years old at that time when we first met. She might have even been maybe a little younger. And my parents lived in this one neighborhood, and there was a store nearby about 2 blocks away. And I was in between the store and where my parents lived at that time. And I was talking to this one white kid, and we were just having a conversation. But it looked like we were having a fight, but we really weren't. We were just having a casual conversation. And Monica happened to be walking toward where we were, and she thought I was in trouble. I had not even met her at that time. She thought I was in trouble. And she walked up to that white kid, and she went off on that kid.
Good.
And you leave him alone. She was using colorful language then. I can't see on TV. And my first thought was, oh, how sweet. This girl thought I was in trouble, and she's defending me. And I asked her what her name was, and we told her that it was just a misunderstanding, and you know, I wasn't in trouble, and we went on to become friends.
That's good. Yeah.
And we wound up growing up together. That's how Monica and I became friends. By her defending me when she thought I was in trouble when we were kids. And I'm almost 60 years old now, and I just never forgot that. And Monica's like in her, I'd say mid-40s now. And she's just been such a sweetheart in my life ever since I've known her.
Yep.
Because, you know, growing up together, like, I used to tease her when she first got her driver's license. And she used to practice driving a car past where my parents lived, and we'd all scream out, "You don't know how to drive!" Yeah, but no, Monica is just one of the nicest persons
Wonderful.
that I've ever known in my entire lifetime. She's just been one of my best of best friends.
Wonderful.
Since growing up, and so I wanted to talk about her on
Wonderful.
television. And she's gonna probably kill me for talking about her on TV when she sees this, but I'm gonna probably give her a call tonight.
Wonderful.
But yeah, I just was lucky. I mean, I've not had very many friends like her over
Yeah,
the years. I
yeah.
mean, we were talking about through thick and thin.
Yeah.
That girl has always been there.
Wonderful.
She was there when I was having trouble with my parents growing up and stuff, and you know how you have the peer pressures of school, high school, because we went to the same high school and same junior high and that sort of thing. So, but she's went on to do some great things with her life, and I couldn't be more proud of her. Now I know what I want to talk about. I wanted to talk about some television commercials too.
Oh yeah, I've never really liked television commercials myself.
Well, you know they have. I don't know if you know this. They have what's called the Clio Award. Once a year. You know how they have the Academy Award for movies?
Yes.
Well, the Clio Award is for best commercial, like the funniest commercial,
Yeah.
the most outrageous commercial. And you know, I'm not really a fan of commercials, but I have to admit, some of them are really funny. Like, did you see the Snickers commercial
No.
with Betty White?
Nope.
Now, Betty White is this famous actress from the 1940s. She's like in her 90s now. Just really popular. God bless her. And they had this one where this big football football player, he was like hungry. You know when you get hungry, they say you get a Snickers and it'll satisfy you till you get some real food. And so he tackles this old lady, this big football player, like smacks right in her, knocks her on her back like this, and then he gets a Snicker candy or however it was, and it was just cute the way they did it. And it was just very, very funny. But I think Betty White was a good sport to do that commercial. Obviously, he didn't tackle her for real because he was 90-something years old, but it looked like he did on screen. I don't know if they did special effects or what. But, you know, Betty White, she's an amazing personality to me. She's been on television for, I think, 70 years now. Isn't that amazing?
Yeah.
That is an amazing career. And she is just, in fact, I think she has gotten more popular as she has gotten older. In fact, she was so popular that, you know how Saturday Night Live has like guest hosts every week?
Yeah, I'm sure they do, yeah.
Well, there was a petition for Betty White to be a host. I don't know who started that, but people started signing their signature to Saturday Night Live saying, we got to get Betty White on this program here to host it. And when they finally made arrangements for her to host that show, they said that was one of the most watched episodes of Saturday Night Live because of Betty White.
Yep.
And so, you know, that show is known for being a little raunchy, I admit. But when they had Betty White on there, they couldn't be quite as raunchy because she's from a different era.
Yeah.
She's from a different generation. So they had to make it work, they had to do more of these skits of her era, her time.
Yep.
And one of the skits they did was they picked on Lawrence Welk.
Oh.
And I thought that was so funny because they had these bubbles up on the screen, in one of the early skits. And they had this actor, I don't know his name, he had his hair all slicked back, like Lawrence Welk. And he came out with his music baton, and it was like, a one and a two, and he was like doing all these imitations of Lawrence Welk. And it was just the funniest skit to me that they did. But see, getting back to Betty White, they had to make that work. It wouldn't have worked if you had this 90-something lady doing relevant current stuff.
Yeah.
But it was one of the most watched Saturday Night Live. And I made it a point to watch that because I normally don't watch Saturday Night Live. But when they announced on the world news that Betty White was going to host it, I'm like, Betty White, huh? Okay, if she's going to host this, this is going to be worth staying up because I want to see what they're going to do. And they tried to sneak a few raunchy things in there. But other than that, it worked. It was very funny. So, but I had fun watching Betty White on that. And it was just really amusing. But her popularity is so amazing to me. I'm like, God bless this lady. I mean, she's done a lot of shows. Like, she had a show in the 40s called The Betty White Show. It was a black and white comedy sitcom for that era. And she went on to... She was married to a guy named Alan Ladd, I think was his name. He was a host of a show called Password. This is way before your time. You wouldn't know it. And she was like one of the regulars. It was like husband and wife team. They worked on this Password. And then she went on to do the Mary Tyler Moore Show in the 70s. She played Sue Ann Nevin's character was her name. And as she was getting older, it was just getting funnier. And her popularity was growing even more. And then she went on to do a television show called The Golden Girls.
Oh, yes, The Golden Girls.
Yeah, Betty White. And she was just funny then. And then, of course, she started doing more stuff. She did a show called Hot in Cleveland, I think was the name of it, when she's getting, with Valley Bertinelli, I think that's the name of the show. And as she was getting older, she was just getting more in demand and more funnier, even though she was physically older. So, and by the time she did Saturday Night Live, oh my goodness. But I think her stride, I think the best thing she ever did in her entire career was probably Golden Girls. Now, I wasn't really a fan of that.
Yeah, I never watched it. I never watched Golden Girls. Never seen it. But I
admit, they've had some pretty funny things on that. But as a whole, that was one of the shows I could live without.
Well, there were so many sitcoms I could live without, like Golden Girls or Three's Company or Cheers or Friends.
I wasn't into Cheers. I didn't think that was funny.
Yeah.
And I didn't particularly care for, there was Cheers, Golden Girls.
Friends.
Yeah, see, that's not for me. But I'm not going to tell somebody don't watch those
shows. Exactly. If they
works.
like it, if they
like it. But, anyway, I think for those who are into Golden Girls or whatever, I think that that's probably the funniest and the best show of any show that Betty White has ever done in her entire career. That was probably her stride, even though she was physically older. And I admit the show was very, very popular.
Oh, it was, yeah.
And I did look at a few episodes. They had one episode, which I wrote in my book, because, you know, I like Dick Van Dyke. I'm a big fan of Dick Van Dyke. And they had this episode where Dick Van Dyke's character was a professional clown. And he was having a relationship with Dorothy on the show. And, you know, Dorothy's the tall lady. And, you know, all four of those ladies live in that comfortable house. They've either raised their kids or had their careers and everything. Whereas Dick Van Dyke still wanted to travel around and be a clown, even though he was physically older. So the question came up, could Dorothy give up her friends and living in that house to follow the dream of Dick Van Dyke, who she was dating? Because they had this thing where they were talking about their relationship and where it was going to go. And it was at a standstill. He wanted to travel, she didn't. And could he give up his dream and stay in that town where Dorothy was so he can get closer to her and maybe get married or whatever? So that was an interesting plot line to me. It's always hard to ask someone to give up their dream for a person. I know, I've lived that. So, and when I did see that particular episode of Golden Girls, it did catch my attention. But in this case, Dorothy decided to stay in the house and with her friends, and they kind of partied a little bit. And that happens in real life.
Oh, yeah, it does, yeah.
A person will have a goal or a dream. And, you know, I'm from the old school. I would never take anybody's dream from them.
Right.
So if I were dating someone and they had a dream or a plan, I would just wish them well.
Exactly.
And encourage them to pursue that. You don't want to get to the end of your life, and I've said this before, you don't want to get to the end of your life and wish that you had done what you always wanted to do, but you never did for whatever reason. You only get one ride in this life. You don't get a do-over, you know? So, but that Golden Girls episode, that just hit home. And I've known people that have followed their dreams. I have a friend right today. I won't mention her name on television, but she's on General Hospital. And she's got a big
They're
role.
still doing General Hospital after all these years? Whoa.
I have a personal friend. Now, she didn't have much of a talking part. She was the maid, the housekeeper to Sonny's character. Sonny was one of the big characters in General Hospital. And I remember I used to watch that scene when they would have her on camera in front of Sonny's house when she was serving people or whatever. And I used to watch that, because I normally don't watch General Hospital, but I would watch it going, there's my friend right there on TV on General Hospital.
Cool.
And I know she had to be making a pretty good chunk of change doing that.
Oh, yeah.
And I would smile every time I saw her.
Good.
So see, the thing is, she followed her dream. And there are a lot of people who follow their dreams, including myself. And that's what I would say to somebody. So if I was dating someone and they had a dream, I'm not going to take that from them.
Right.
Now, the other side of that, I've known people who had dreams, and they get married, and then the husband or wife tells them they can no longer pursue that. Squash that. I've known people
That's
that had
horrible,
that happen. Or before, you know, there might be someone following a dream and they're dating, they're not even married, and then the boyfriend or girlfriend tells them, I don't want you to do that. I want you to be normal, whatever normal is. Get a 8 to 5 and I said that in that documentary too. Whatever normal is.
Exactly.
I don't know what it is with our culture. They act like if you work outside of that 9 to 5 system, something's wrong with you.
I know.
If I had a nickel for every time somebody has said about like that, you need to get a real job. What is a real job?
Exactly.
You know? I mean, who died and said, this is what you have to do? Because, you know, before, and you know, I think we talked about this, before there was that 9 to 5 system, everybody worked for themselves anyway. You know how that 9 to 5 system came into existence? The invention of the machinery. When they were first building those railroads and stuff, these companies were building railroads for the trains to go across the United States and stuff like that at that time, like that Kung Fu movie with David Carradine.
Yes.
And they were hiring people to do these labor works for these companies for 8 hours a day. That's where that came during the Industrial Revolution is what they called it. And then over a period of time, that became the normal standard of work instead of the work they did before that came out, see? And it got to the point where people jumped on that security because, and I can understand this part of the security because they had a paycheck that came every week instead of working for yourself and not knowing if you're going to get paid or when you're going to get paid. So that became, a 9 to 5 became such a standard that they judge those in our modern times now.
I know.
And I have a real problem
absolutely,
with that. And
absolutely.
As a pianist, and a musician, I've dealt with that over the years. And as I look back in my life, if I had bought into that so-called be normal, I would not have had the life that I've been blessed to have. There'd be no Asaph the pianist. There'd be no Asaph my autobiography. I've had a fun life.
Exactly.
God has blessed me, and I may not be rich, but I'll tell you, I would rather do what I love and make little money than make a lot of money at a job I hate.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
You know, when you work these jobs that you hate, it messes with your personality.
It does.
It messes with your psyche. It messes with your emotional state. And I've seen people like that. They get so bittered. And angry because, oh gosh, I have to work this stupid job that I hate. So they expect everybody else to work by that standard that they have to do. And my birth mom was a classic example, not to pick on her. She used to harp and get on my case because I wasn't like everybody else. And I fought against that. Doesn't mean I didn't love my birth mom, but we just clashed. But the point that I'm making is I've had a blessed life. Ever since I was 20 years old, I have got to play the piano or the trumpet at the time and perform. I was in Vegas when I was 26 years old. And I'm not talking about on the downtown section. I was playing on the main strip in Las Vegas when I was 26 years old. And that would have never happened if I had listened to what everybody was saying. You know, it started with my band teacher in high school. And this is what bothered me. I don't know if I ever told you this story. You know, they spend 4 years of your life from the time you're a freshman in high school to the time you graduate teaching you music, trying to get you to be as good as you can be. And as soon as I graduated, my band teacher said to me, now you need to get into the real world, Asaph, and you need to stop your music and do such and such. I was crushed. I was almost in tears when I went home that night, but I was only like 17 at that time. And as I began to process that, I was like, this makes no sense. Why would this man spend 4 years of his life trying to get me to be the best musician I could be just to tell me to quit? And the on switch came on at that time. I said, I can't accept that. And then I started noticing that other people were telling me the same thing. And I said, I can't accept that. I spent 4 years of my life trying to perfect this. I'm pretty good, actually. Praise God. I give him the credit. And I made a decision at 17 years old that I was going to pursue music. And what I did, I think I told you this, I was a student teacher for 2 years at my old junior high school. And when I was 19, I got the scholarship at the San Francisco Conservatory. A year later, I went to Los Angeles and got my first job for Loyola Marymount University, and the rest is history. I can count the number of jobs probably on one hand outside of music in my whole life since I was 20 years old. And I didn't fall off a cliff.
Exactly.
I didn't fall off the edge of the world that people think. They just freak out and think that if you do something, if you follow your dream like sports or acting or drama or Broadway, they think you're going to fall off the edge of the world and be destitute. And that's the furthest thing.
Absolutely.
God, that's crazy.
Yeah, the most famous musicians, because like we were talking about, to the did you know little trivia about the musicians on 947 Easy, either Easy Listening or the Soundscapes or Smooth Jazz. A lot of these people started playing the guitar when they were 5, and they pursued that dream. They said, I don't want to be locked in 9 to 5. If I can play the guitar at age 5 or age 10, self-taught, and perform my own compositions at age 11 or 12, maybe I can do this. And they're all very successful. They're not starving. It's their bread and butter, and now they've made hit records or other records or things that even they're not rich.
That's my point. I may not be as famous as some of these people you're talking about by name, but there are a lot of working musicians that you'll probably never hear of.
Oh yeah,
Doesn't
absolutely.
mean they're not working.
They're working very hard.
Do you know who Lena Horne was? She was a famous singer, the African American singer of the 1940s. Mm-hmm. I have a friend. You wouldn't know him from Adam. I won't mention his name on television, but he was one of the backup musicians for Lena Horne. Mm-hmm. And I assure you, he was not eating ramen noodles every night. It's just, I don't know what it is about the I guess the American culture, the worldwide culture. I'm not knocking the Industrial Revolution. I'm not knocking the 9 to 5 system. I'm not saying don't do that. What I am saying is some people choose to make their living outside of that. And
absolutely.
There's nothing wrong with that.
Absolutely.
Some people want to follow their dreams, and I think every person should.
Yeah. Well, look like William Ackerman. It's not to be... he was a soft guitar artist. I've had several of his records from the Windham Hill label. Just beautiful soft guitar about flowers and trees. Yeah, that's not a 9 to 5 job, but he's good at it, and it always got him the bread and butter that he needed,
Of course, and same with me,
Exactly.
I want to play the piano until I physically can't, or the good Lord takes me to heaven.
Exactly.
And for me, my climax would be to launch off that new Lawrence Welk.
Oh, that'd be fantastic, yeah.
That would be my pinnacle of all the years I've been in music since I was 20. And I've got some great memories in music. I played for the Salvation Army for 12 years.
Yeah.
12 years. And got nominated for the California Jefferson Award for Community Service when I got that letter from ABC, which I told that story before. I played in Vegas. I've played in hotels. I've done weddings, community events. I've done children's television. Oh my goodness. I could just go on and on and on and on of the things I got to do since I was 20 years old. And I didn't fall off the edge of the world.
Yeah.
But my point is that never would have happened if I had listened to everybody when I was 17 years old. You can't do this anymore. You have to pursue. You have to be normal. Get a job at Safeway or something. Some crazy thing. I have nothing against Safeway.
Oh yeah, they're great.
I'm using that as an illustration that's what I was told since I was 17.
Yeah.
And after I cried that night and processed it, I said, I can't. I'm going to pursue this.
Exactly.
I know I can do it.
Yeah.
I knew when I was in high school, when I was a sophomore in high school, I knew that I was going to be able to make a living in music. I knew it then, when nobody else believed it at the time. I knew it. And the rest is history.
Well, it's interesting. Have you ever heard of Matty Stepanek?
Yes, I have.
Yeah, he often wrote a series called Heart Songs, and he said, follow your heart song. It's what you want to do, what beauty you have, what you want to do. Like in the case of your heart song, is to follow music and have that as an under 5 job.
That is correct, yeah.
Exactly.
And I have an answer for those people who are already married and want to pursue it. All you have to do is lower your standard of living, say for 6 months, and give it a try. Let's say there's a husband and wife team, and I know people aren't going to agree with this. Let's say there's a husband and wife. Let's say this husband wants to follow a dream, or to say this wife. All they have to do is lower their standard of living, say for 6 months. Let that wife support that husband as he pursues that, and like cut off the cable and the the cappuccinos and things, and lower your standard of living just for 6 months to pursue that, and see if it works.
Yeah.
And usually it will.
Yeah. Well.
But see, we're spoiled. People don't want to give up their cable. They don't want to give up their comfortable lifestyle. And it's only for 6 months.
Yeah, or a year, or whatever.
Or a year. And just try it. That's one way you can do it. If you're married.
Yeah. I know that as for married couples, there's one of the famous musicians I like. They're not a household name, but they're called Tingstad and Rumble. They make the most beautiful music. I want to have a piano and maybe a guitar and maybe some violins, just modern acoustic music that is so beautiful. Even one of their albums was called American Acoustic. I got to see them over at the university when they were playing a few years ago. It's a husband and wife team, some other musicians. They just play them, and they're not starving.
Of course not.
Yeah.
So we're almost out of time, but we can pick up on this in the next taping.
Yes.
But the point is, I would encourage anybody watching this, follow your dream.
Exactly.
Don't live your life not following
Right.
that and get to be 80 and look back and wish you had done it. It'll be too late.
I know.
And you won't get a do-over.
I wish you could be paid to sleep in, though. Wouldn't it be nice to have a job that's just a mattress tester? You could just test it. This is a comfortable mattress, and be paid to sleep.
Well, it's like Vanna White. You know who she is, the lady that turns the letters over on Wheel of Fortune?
No.
Well, anyway, what a cool gig.
That's
All
true.
she does for a living is she turns letters
Yeah.
on a game show. What a sweet gig.
Yeah.
I would love to do something like that.
Oh, yeah, and get paid a lot of money, yeah.
Oh, yeah. I once read she made $100,000 a year.
Wow,
That was
yeah.
like 30 years ago.
Yeah.
I assume she's probably a millionaire.
Mm-hmm.
But the point that I'm making is, don't judge someone
Yeah,
for
exactly.
not working 9 to 5. Be supportive.
Exactly.
You got a dream, follow it.
Yeah.
Pursue it.
Yeah.
And on that note, I am Asaph Adonai. Thanks for being part of this, and Em and I will pick up on that and elaborate more. So again, if you're watching this, follow your dream, whatever
Yep.
it is. Acting, theater, Broadway, on Broadway, off Broadway, music, piano. If you want to dig a ditch, be the best ditch digger out there. Just do what your heart
Exactly.
says, and you'll be happy.
Yep.
On my left, thanks, Emmet. Affectionately aging rocker Emmet. Any final thing here?
Oh, yes, a real joke. Let's see, there were these 2 dishwashers, and they were splashing around in a coffee cup. And it was very fascinating. And then this one washing machine came along and said, I can't see around that, ha ha ha. I know it's an old one, I can't think of any new ones.
That's all right. And on that note, until our next show, Maranatha. Well, I'm going to shut down.
Fascinating.
At home, and we'll pick up on that again on the next show.
Fascinating.